LinkedIn.
Lovely.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. All right. Well, welcome to another episode of This One Time. Oh, I can hear myself on your end.
Ooh.
Oh, hang on. I know what's happening. There we go. I got it. Okay. It was me. I had forgotten to mute LinkedIn. But we're all good now. Anyway, this one time, episode 6, this is about when we moved offices. Well, Eric, I was not there. You and Sasha were there. I guess we could introduce ourselves for the people who are not, this is their first time with tuning in. I'm Jorie Wisnefski. I'm the marketing manager at Urban Machine, and Urban Machine is a robotics company on a mission to reclaim the wood waste, half the 37 million tons of wood waste that go into the landfill every year. Our robot is able to pull the nails out, automates the whole reclamation process so that the wood can be reused as premium lumber. And I'm here with...
And I'm Eric Law. I'm CEO and co-founder of Urban Machine.
I'm Sasha Galitsky. I'm a mechanical engineer here on the team.
Yeah, and this is both of your second time on the show.
Uh,
So you're veterans at this point.
It's like you,
We did so well last time you invited us back, huh, Jory?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're good enough. You can be on the show again. All right, so give me a little backstory. Why the move, first of all? Like, where were you in the process?
Yeah. So last year we started out when we first launched Urban Machine with Alexandra and I. We started out in a 20,000 square foot old steel factory, giant bay. We rented a couple thousand square feet from them, and so we had this huge space to use. And we knew it was temporary. We knew they were remodeling the building, and at some point we were going to get kicked out. And that happened last summer. Somewhere about a month in advance, they said, "Okay, guys, you got to move. We can't have the space anymore." And so we began the hunt for new space. We needed a big warehouse that we can bring trucks and trailers into, some office space for the team. And so we found a new spot probably about a half a mile away from our last one. So we're still in Oakland. And then the question of, how do we move this 30-foot long machine? We just happened to have some glue lamps lying around from one of the dump loads we received earlier that year. And so we actually used those 30-foot glue lamps to support the machine, because the machine is all Unistar. It's all these segmented pieces across that 30 feet, so about 6 segments. And so the glue lamps actually created a solid structural piece. So we put 2 of those underneath, and then we could pick up the whole system with a forklift and load it onto a flatbed truck, because we had to go from our old facility into the new one. And we did not want to undo hundreds or thousands of T-nuts that the team had spent assembling this. It would have been a couple of weeks probably to disassemble that thing, package it up, ship it, reassemble it, retest it. And so we didn't want to lose that. And so
Well,
we
just
contracted.
for a little personal attestment to that, my first time visiting Urban Machine, I got my T-Nut badge. I helped take down one of the prototypes, and yeah, that is not a motion you want to do for hours on. Well, it's kind of like the whole reclamation thing in general, what people always tell us, that it's the same concept. It's manual labor that's just difficult and repetitive.
Yep. And everything was aligned. We had the shuttle system at that time, so it had tight alignment on it. And so we used reclaimed lumber to move our robot from Office A to Office B. And it worked out really well when we contracted with a trucking company that brought in big forklifts and flatbed trucks to put it on, drove it down the street, unloaded it, and the next day we fired it up. So we essentially were down for 2 days with the machine for testing.
If I recall, we had a demo the following day, I think, over here.
Yeah.
So the day after the move, it's like we're already showing it
We're
off.
firing up and.
Oh, I don't think I knew that not only did you have to move, it was like there's an absolute time. This has to be finished.
It's called startup time.
Right.
You move, you got 2 days, and you're off doing demos again, right? You can't do this for weeks or months. It's not like a large company where spend 2 months moving kind of thing.
Right.
We literally moved the entire shop in a day. With about
And you
6.
also don't have a lot of help at this point. How many people were on the team?
We had 2 summer interns, you and Max, 5, 6, 7, 7.
Yeah.
Okay. 7 people to move a whole warehouse. So Sasha gave me some pictures to show what you guys were doing.
Yeah. Where we were working as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what the inside of the office looked right? Or inside of the warehouse where you had like office space.
Yep. So those ceilings are about 35 feet tall, to give you an idea. So it was a massive the whole building was like 400,000 square feet. We were in one bay that was about 20,000 square feet. And then a previous tenant had built out these nice offices that we were using in there. And the building owner was actually going to demolish them after we left. So we said, hey, can we take the material with it and use it in our new offices? And they said, absolutely. So the engineers got a taste of demolition. They got to go out and demolish the buildings and bring it down, or the wall partitions. And then we brought that material with us over to the new offices as well.
Okay, I know we have more pictures. Let me show. But Sasha, this is your like first foray into such a thing, I would assume. Yeah.
Yep. First time taking down a building on purpose, and
On purpose.
I've done a little bit of woodworking just like years ago, just putting together some like wood benches. So my grandma taught me how to hammer nails as a kid, but I've never actually despite being in this sort of line of work now, like where we're working with recycling wood, I never knew what's inside the walls, like around us, and it was very educational just to see just how much stuff there is and how much more complicated than it is, and we kind of take it for granted. So definitely a learning experience.
And because this is like your first time doing something like this, what did you learn from it? I'll keep pulling up other pictures as we talk.
It was hard work. It's a lot of effort. It's kind of one thing that Eric constantly reminds me in my designs for what I'm building is that we want to minimize as much manual effort as possible in our whole process, because even if lifting a 2x4 isn't difficult, but doing that 100 times again and again and again and bending over and getting back up, it really adds up. Like I have a lot of respect for people who do this every day, like putting up buildings. So yeah, so it's kind of have to keep that in mind for when I'm designing something. I guess it can be heavy, it can't be annoying or repetitive, like you said. Like the same motion again and again will hurt, will cause some damage. So that was that just the physical labor of it was a big learning point. And two is just sort of I know 2x4s, and you talk about all the standard lumber types, but then just like taking this apart, just even the photo, you can see how the door frame is its own unit, all this different types of wood used for the different sort of components of the walls or the ceilings. Like I don't know that, but I had no idea that is like a lot of standardized things that are kind of used across the building. So it's just like, okay, this is what can you use for this, what can you use for that, and what is recyclable and what isn't. For example, right there we have the big 2x4s that we recycle, but then a bunch of the very soft wood that we just threw away because it's practically useless.
Yep. They broke into little tiny pieces. It was little 1x1 strips that they used for holding in some of the panels. The other thing too to add in is we did this in August last summer. So mornings weren't bad, but this was a steel building. So by afternoon it was, Oakland doesn't get hot, but when you put sunshine on a steel uninsulated building, inside would regularly get well into the 90s. So
And yet you guys are all wearing jeans. I mean, I guess you have to because it's a work
Yep.
space. But when you had this idea to to break it down, Eric, I mean, I am assuming this was all you with your construction background. Like, hey, yeah, we can take this, we can move it.
I asked the team if they wanted to do it, and they all said yes. So, because I could have gone out and hired a crew to come in and deconstruct it was the original idea. But when the engineers and stuff were like, no, we want to do it, I'm like, all right, team building exercise or team deconstruction exercise.
Yeah, team building and rebuilding. And then, Sasha, after this experience, did you think that this was a good idea? Would you have volunteered if you could like teleport back to when Eric said, "Hey, who wants to do this?"
Yeah, no, definitely. Again, it's like I said, it was enjoyable. We had a lot of fun. We learned a lot of stuff, and like I don't mind like the hard work, like let's say getting my hands dirty. It was also interesting just to see. We had one of the interns you mentioned, Luke. He has a background in woodworking, and he was very useful. It's actually interesting because like some of us have like we have no idea what we're doing, and Eric, you were out ferrying the wood back and forth in the massive U-Haul or whatever it was. And Luke was really useful. He was on the roof the whole time, directing us and just doing all the hard work himself and like telling us what to do. So just also great to see like a junior member of the team was like telling us what to
Taking
do and
charge.
how to do it properly.
They don't
Uh,
teach you how to use pry bars in engineering school,
No, no, they don't. No, no, no. You sit in lectures and nod, and then you get the degree.
huh?
Yeah, which is actually a side topic, but it's like
Yeah, yeah.
very little practical opportunity. No, you have plenty of opportunities, but you can go through all of and get an engineering degree
Yep.
without having touched anything or built anything,
That
which
makes
is a little bit
sense,
scary. Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
Interesting. Yeah. So from your like experience, I mean, obviously you're well versed in mechanical engineering, but yet you had never worked with wood really before this.
I have, but only because I went out of my way to work on certain projects, but it wasn't a thing that's sort of like a requirement at all.
I see.
Uh, which that's a different discussion, different argument. But like I
I
said,
can't
yeah,
tell.
learned a lot, and I would definitely do it again, maybe on a smaller scale.
Yeah. Is this Andrew
Yep.
driving? I can't tell. Yeah, that's Andrew. Do you drive the forklift?
Everybody is certified to drive the forklift. So all the engineers, we've taught them all how to drive forklifts here at Urban Machine. And that's kind of the appeal. There's a lot of engineering jobs where you can sit there in front of a CAD system, 8 to 10 hours a day and CAD away. Um, Not only can you do the CAD here, you can order the parts, you can build it, you can drive the forklift, you can unload it from the truck, right when your pallet comes in. Um, the engineers actually get to get their hands dirty.
Yeah. Now, usually when I'm in the office, I see Max on out there. It's
Yep.
like that's awesome. Look at all that. And so, how did you transport this all to the new office?
U-Haul truck.
U-Haul truck. Okay, so
Yeah,
you
we
just
rented
loaded
the.
the truck and then
Yep.
did you have a forklift in each place or did you have to just get it all and then move
Yeah,
it
we
all?
had forklift in each place.
Hmm. So do we have two forklifts?
No, the building that we moved out of, we used theirs. That yellow one you saw, that was the building. Ours is the orange one in this picture.
Got it.
Much nicer.
Yeah,
Got it. And
ours is the nice electric one.
okay, and what's the intent of you move every little piece of everything.
We
You
didn't
keep
bring
all
everything.
this wood,
We brought the big stuff.
the big stuff.
Yeah, so the new offices that we're currently in, they were probably built in the 50s, 60s,
Okay.
and they have not been updated since then. So we knew moving into the space that we were going to have to do a refresh and expand the office space here to support the growing team. And so the plan is to use those materials in the remodel. So we're going to use those when we expand upstairs above us here. We're going to put in a loft office up above us, which is actually going to start here in the next couple of weeks. And so we're going to try and reuse as much of that material that we brought from there in that remodel upstairs.
It's always a little more fun to take things down because it goes really much faster than to bring it in and rebuild it.
Yep.
How long do you think the new project's going to take?
Well, we've got to stage it to try and work around it because we got to kind of keep running the company and do the remodel. So it'll probably be about 6 weeks of construction, 6 to 8 weeks.
And this stuff that it's just stored in the warehouse right now, all of the things that you brought, or all the wood that you brought over.
It is. Yep.
So you're practicing what you preach. It's the circularity and
You got
um,
it.
tell us a little bit about that. Like how did you get so involved in circularity?
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of the how we started this company was it's solving a technical challenge and circularity. So I got involved in sustainability kind of initiatives probably about 7 or 8 years ago, trying to see how we could do better. And then at the last company I was at, that's where I started digging into it on the construction side. Because as an individual, you can only do so much. You can compost and recycle and do all that. But when you start looking at the waste that comes from construction, it's 100 times what we do as individuals or consumers. And so solving it for the construction industry has a much bigger benefit, right?
Yeah.
37 million tons of dimensional lumber is way more waste than what consumers will throw away.
Sure.
And so being able to do that with our robots, being able to do that, and just as our business practice, right? How can us as a business do better, not just with our products, but in our operations as well? So we do a lot of things here at Urban Machine where we try and reduce that impact as much as we can. We even push on our vendors to reduce their footprints and reduce their shipping costs and materials. And how do we really lean things up to get rid of the waste?
That's awesome. And as an engineer, Sasha, like, how has that shaped the way you think? Before you were saying, just even breaking down the old office and bringing it over here, it's given you a new like concept when you're working on something. How has circularity entered your thinking?
Uh, it's a good question. Again, I always think like, oh, I'm trying to be a mindful person and like try not to waste too much and recycle what I can. But as Eric mentioned, it sort of kind of pales in comparison to what the big industries are doing. So definitely become more mindful back home and also in the office. And Eric is very consistent, like
Yeah.
very much like you said, practices what he preaches. Where every little thing, no matter like again, it all adds up, I guess. So every little thing, Eric will mention reminders to recycle. Where we're trying to package away our demo unit, and I was like, oh, I'll just run to Home Depot and buy some packaging material or some foam to protect it. And I was like, no, we have some lying around. We keep getting all these shipments, and we have to reuse it. So and then even the robot that we mentioned, the 30-foot monster robot that you helped take down. Well, right now, my current project is using that material, and we're cutting it down to build another sort of part of the robot, another test unit. So very much we're consistent, and Eric is kind of the driving force behind making us think about sustainability and the whole cyclical process of everything. And hopefully, we're all doing it, ourselves as well. But Eric is very much like a driving force behind that in a very good way. So.
No, for sure. It has me think about things differently as well, and I'm not with him every single day. So that's
Give me a good
awesome.
break.
Yeah.
You actually had said earlier, Eric, just going along with what Sasha was saying about using these things in the engineering of things. The plexiglass here in this picture, what's happening with that now?
Yeah, we're using that for the safety enclosures on the machine. So one of the challenges is obviously as we pull nails, things go flying inside the enclosures. And so to improve the safety of those, we're reusing the plexiglass to essentially create closed cells to keep the dust, the dirt, and the nails within the machine footprint so it doesn't go flying outside.
That's awesome. So smart. And then, of course, very exciting, we have
How's
one
the
more.
video?
We do.
Excellent.
You want to set us up for this, Sasha? I gotta find it.
Yeah, it was video I took. You saw the photo earlier of Andrew on the forklift, and that's like us preparing to tear down the whole build. Not tear down, but topple the whole structure because I guess that's the easier way than just climbing on top and undoing everything. Let gravity do its job, and it was like it's always fun when big things come crashing down. Yeah, it was a fun sort of like thing to witness. Let's say.
That's awesome. I'm trying to pull it
Nobody
up.
got injured. Nobody got hurt. I have to put that. We were very careful. Careful.
Perfect. Okay. Here's the video. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, very satisfying.
Very satisfying. And were there a lot of cheers involved? I'm gonna play that again because that was fun. Were there a lot of cheering? Were a lot of cheering happening?
I think so. We were.
Yeah.
I think you
There
were
were,
gone that time.
I
Yeah,
was
but
not there. Yeah,
yeah,
I can't.
Oh
I
no, you
came
missed
back and I
it.
pulled it down, so I got
yeah.
to watch the video. But it's one of the challenges you have with deconstruction, right? Safety is very important about the crews and the people, and so you reach a point when you're deconstructing a building where it becomes, kind of a challenge to keep doing it by hand. And so the team reached out with this point, and so we said, okay, guys, let's bring a machine in. Let's have the machine take the risk and move the people out. Some of the material could have gotten damaged a little bit, but it was only a 12-foot distance from the roof down. And so that's how we decided to use the forklift to pull it down. And then once it's on the ground, it's much easier to disassemble than having people up in the air on ladders and stuff trying to take down joists and things like that.
Right. That makes so much sense.
Is that similar to what they do with large commercial buildings? So, sort of like you strip it and then you topple it, or no, it's much more of a controlled process?
It depends.
Okay.
It really depends on how it's constructed, and how the roof joists are and the floor joists and stuff, and what they're trying to do with the material, right? Is it steel, wood, or concrete? But sometimes they implode them, sometimes they strip them, sometimes they just smash them and work their way across. It just depends on how it's built.
Makes sense.
Well, and that wouldn't that, how they do it, obviously, it lends itself to the either being deconstructed or demolished, of course, right? Like if it's salvageable. So you have to be thoughtful in how you take it down.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. As is, we have our newsletter today is about deconstruction versus demolition. It's on LinkedIn. All right. Any other last thoughts about things you learned or where to go from here?
Hopefully we don't have to move again.
Oh,
We got a lot more stuff now. It'd take a lot more trucks.
A lot more stuff now.
But actually the machine becomes portable here in a couple of weeks. So it's good timing. That first trailer test was a good test of all of our hardware and electronics to see how. Demo Bird, we've put on a trailer and we've dragged it around the Bay Area to a couple different events and bounced it on potholes and freeways. So even though, it's kind of a bummer when you have to move stuff around, but it's also a good test case. Test
Absolutely.
out your assemblies and test out your machines and, can they take the rigors of real life travel on the road?
Right. And that's the whole MO, right? Is that we can go to demolition and construction sites to reclaim the wood right there. And no better way to find that out than on something like this, right?
Yep.
Test it first. Very cool.
Absolutely.
To learn more about Urban Machine, you can visit our website, urbanmachine.build. If you have questions for any of us, you can reach out on LinkedIn. All of us are on there. Thanks for joining us today.
awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Jorie.
Thanks, Jorie.